Hi everybody, I wanted to share this video on this brand new year of 2025. It's January 1st. I still have my Christmas stockings there in the background, as you can see. And I just wanted to share how I made a decision with my social media several years ago and how it changed my life for the better. And around 3.5, 4 years ago, I decided to quit social media. And ironically, I now have more friends, I have deeper connections, I spend more time with people in person, and for the first time in my life, I have felt those moments where I feel like I have an abundance of friends. And I never felt that when I was constantly on Facebook and Instagram and posting photos, seeing people's posts. During that time, ironically, when you're the most connected, it makes you feel isolated, which is the irony of, social media platforms. And so I'll share what I did, and it doesn't mean that I don't have a Facebook or an Instagram or anything like that, but something that I did do 3.5 years ago is I unfollowed most of my friends on Facebook, around 95, 98% of them. So I didn't delete them, but I went through my friends list, and one by one, you press the three dots, and I unfollowed every single one. So I haven't seen people's posts for 3.5, going on to 4 years. Oh, helicopter. Okay. And this all happened. Yeah, so I unfollowed my friends without deleting them, but basically when you unfollow them, you don't see their posts. And this was, you could probably guess during COVID, everybody was posting articles, and it was a mixture of things, but it was mostly, people were posting, politics and articles, and everybody was angry. It doesn't matter on which side. People are angry on this side, and people are angry on this side. And it becomes overwhelming because when you're scrolling through social media, you're seeing your friends, you're seeing a side of your friends that you don't generally see in person. And people can get heated in person, but on social media, because there is this barrier, people can come across a lot nastier than what they are in person. And and even with some of my dear friends that I really love and I like hanging out with them in person, it's kind of funny because I have told them, if I didn't know you in person and I just knew you from your Facebook posts, I don't know if I'd want to be your friend. And I think that has offended some of my friends, but it just comes to show you how we can create a perception of someone based on their post, but then in person they have a different energy. So anyways, during COVID, everybody's posting things because they're angry about one thing or the other thing. And when you're scrolling through your feed and that's all you're seeing, and not only that, but you're also seeing people arguing in comment sections all the time. Or back when I used to post, uh, you know, fights would break out in my comment section too over opinions. And even I remember one time, one of my old coworkers just posted a funny meme. It really wasn't even meant to be very political, and then I'm scrolling through and there it was, just arguing, people arguing back and forth, back and forth. And the thing is that we become so desensitized to this that we view this as normal. But I remember a lot of this stuff started to like weigh heavy on me. It's like I don't want to scroll through my feed and just see anger. And unfortunately, the way that these social media platforms are designed, with the new updates over the last several years, anger causes a lot of the most engagement. These are strong emotional responses, which tend to be negative. And because that gets the most engagement, that is what Facebook prioritizes in people's feeds, regardless of our mental health. And unfortunately, at the time, and that's not to say that I'm a saint in any sense, I too was part of the problem. There was a time in my life where I would have certain views and I would post something and I would get really emotionally invested. And when you get emotionally invested and somebody else gets emotionally invested with their point of view and then they answer with 5 paragraphs, then you want to respond to everything, so that you spend half an hour, 45 minutes, how am I going to reply to this person because I want to prove my point? and then you reply another thing like that, and then they reply, and then one of their other friends replies, and then one of my friends replies, and it just becomes this thing. And sometimes in these posts, especially when you have really strong opinions about something, you can spend easily like half a day, half a day just checking on that post. What do people say? How do I reply? And that weighs on you, man. Like that weighs on you. And I don't think we realize how much that hurts us. And unfortunately, at the time, I also lost friends over it. I lost one of my best friends at the time because we have different views, and it was over things that were posted on social media. And there was people, old, good acquaintances, people that I would see once every like year or two for a nice catch up, and over differences in opinions, those people just kind of fell out of my life. When you open up your phone and you start to scroll, you just know if something makes you feel better or worse, right? And I just knew that a lot of the time I wasn't feeling good. And then one day I was like, this is it. I went on my desktop, opened up my friends list, unfollowed everybody. With the exception of like 10 people. So I unfollowed almost 1,000 people. And it took me some time to realize how much noise I previously had in my head. And then around a year after that, and I think subconsciously what happens, and mind you too, like I have a bigger Instagram. I was also like a semi-influencer, like 5 to 8 years ago. And man, that was also stressful. I used to not really post about politics, if rarely. Sometimes I did. But, things weren't as politicized at the time, but even like posting, worrying about, how you're going to come across to an audience, especially when you're trying to like build a following, and that in itself, it messes with your psyche. And even when things are going well, and people post, I was a bit of like a gym rat back then, and even if people say positive things, oh, like you look good, or you look handsome, or whatever, and oh, like those muscles, or even if it's positive things, that can also mess with your head. And because when you hear all the time positive things, because you're a gym rat or whatever, and people compliment you, there's a lot of those things can get up in your head as well. And they have found that there seems to be a connection with social media use, like influencer type social media use, and the onset of narcissistic traits. And I do remember at the time, this is before the pandemic, so I'm kind of jumping all over the place a little bit. Sorry about that. But at the time, when you see these comments every day, multiple times a day, people are complimenting like your body and like how you look and then all these things, you start to believe like hell yeah, like I am like better than everybody else, because you get all this like validation all the time. And again, it took me some hindsight to realize before, I eventually stopped the influencer thing. But that was another thing where with hindsight, I was like, yeah, all that was getting up in my head. And I feel in the same way that, when someone has really low self-esteem, let's say that somebody is bullied when they're a kid, maybe they have like big glasses, or, maybe they have trouble with their weight, or whatever it is. Whatever thing that, kids will like pick at anything to bully someone who's a little bit different. And an example of someone who they always hear something negative, and then they become an adult, and then they have this bad self-esteem about themselves, which is not at all like a representative of reality. And sometimes you meet these people that is like, why is your self-esteem so low? And it's because they took to heart a lot of these negative comments, where the view of themselves is not representative of like who they are, because they internalize the negative comments. And in the same way with social media culture and influencer culture, a lot of these positive comments, I believe, can also give someone a higher sense than what they really are. So it goes both ways. You can have a low self-esteem, but you're here, or these positive comments can like raise your ego, but you're here. And then it can create a sense of entitlement. and it can raise your ego, and that's not good. That's not good when you start to walk through the world with some of these narcissistic traits, which social media can make that surface in some people. And I will say that I'm not immune to those things, and in hindsight, I was feeling, it was getting in my head. The ego was getting in my head, and I'm not gonna lie. So anyway, so I jumped a little bit all over the place, but going back to unfollowing my friends. So after I stopped following my friends for some time, obviously there is this, I don't want to see a void, but you're not seeing people's updates all the time. And subconsciously, I feel like that just kind of pushed me, and also through friends, because I did go through a period of feeling quite lonely. People encouraging me to meet new people. And then, I started to go to like different events, or I would join a group, like a WhatsApp group, and then somebody would have like a meetup in person, and I just put myself out there. And at first it can be really awkward, especially meeting new people as an adult, meeting new friends, especially as an adult man. It can be hard. But I was putting myself out there, and then with time, long story short, I met a lot of new people. And not only did I meet a lot of new people that I would spend time with in person, like without all the like social media, would be in person interactions. A lot of the friends that I had before that I managed to like keep during the pandemic, but without seeing all the social media noise, I was putting myself out there, meeting new people like in person, spending time with them in person, and the friends that I had before the pandemic and the friends that I made during the pandemic, I was spending more time with them. And because even with my close friends that I speak to regularly and I hang out, I choose to not see their posts on social media. Because if you're close to somebody, close enough, you're going to find out important things in their life through them. And we have really watered down the definition of what a friend is. In that, you can get a sense that you know somebody really well because you see their posts all the time. But is that person necessarily going to be there for you if you need something at 2 a.m.? Probably not. Probably not. And, several years later, after I made these changes with my social media, for the first time in my life, because I had gone through periods of feeling lonely, like quite lonely. And that's not because I didn't have any friends, but you can have a lot of friends and feel alone, and you can be alone and not feel lonely. And for me, I felt like I knew a lot of people, but I had these phases of feeling really alone. And ironically, for the first time, I felt years after I made these changes with my social media and meeting new people, I felt like I had an abundance of friends. I was like, wow. And I remember there was one point where, I was supposed to catch up with certain people in person, and there were so many people that I had to catch up with, from new friends that I made and friendships that got closer, that I had to like make a list, like a little schedule, like, oh, I have to meet up with this person and this person and this person and this person and that person. And then I looked at that piece of paper and I was like, wow, I have such an abundance of friends. And it's something that I didn't think I would get to that point, especially because I had dealt with these phases of feeling lonely. And ironically, I'm not really engaged in social media. And I don't connect with these people on social media. And I have felt the most abundant connections that I've ever had. And I just wanted to share that to, I don't know, maybe this encourages somebody, who is ultra connected on social media. If you are one of those people that you have tons of friends on Facebook, you're really active on social media, posting on Instagram, but then if you go home and you feel like something's missing, and maybe you feel alone, or maybe you feel like people don't understand you, or you feel like there's some sort of void. Social media could be a big part of it, because all of this connection that we get through the screens cannot replace real human connection. It can't replace going out for a coffee with somebody, going out for a walk. It can't replace a hug. It can't replace a lot of these things and a lot of these intimate things. And I don't necessarily mean intimate in a romantic way. Like, you know, just having close friends that are there for you in person. And that connection really is irreplaceable. And I know it seems like a drastic thing to do, to just unfollow all of your friends' posts and stop looking at people's Instagram. There is hope. And maybe you just have to sit with yourself a little bit and think, how much time am I spending talking with my friends through Facebook comments or through Messenger, and how much time am I spending with people in person? And if you're finding that you're spending a significant amount of time, much more time through a screen than interacting with your friends in person, I think that's a clue that you need to take a step back and connect with your community. Anyways, my voice is going to start to go away even more. But if you came across this video and you came this far, I appreciate it. I'll try and post some more thoughts in the coming weeks or days. And Happy New Year. I appreciate you. Until next time.